You're listening to Veeam Partner Perspectives with Eric Doherty.
Welcome to the Veeam Partner Perspectives podcast. I'm Eric Doherty. My guest today is former Veeamer who has moved on but stayed in the Veeam ecosystem, Chris Reily, the Director of Systems Engineers at ExaGrid. Chris, welcome to the show. I appreciate you coming.
Thanks, Eric. Great to be with you today.
So can you share a little bit? I mean, obviously I mentioned that you were with Veeam, but can you share about your background and what your current role is all about?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I did spend about 6 years at Veeam and look back on that fondly. I'm now at ExaGrid Systems, and when we started talking about the potential of me moving over to ExaGrid, what actually made it a pretty easy and comfortable decision for me was that I would get to work frequently with all my friends and colleagues over at Veeam. So in a way, it was somewhat like moving over to a sister company that I had a lot of good information and a lot of great contacts and knowledge of. So really was a very smooth transition. I manage all of the systems engineers for the eastern half of the Americas. I've got 17 folks on my team now who range from Eastern Canada all the way down to Chile and Argentina. So really phenomenal group of guys. We've got a few ex-Veemers that are part of that team as well. So a lot of great back and forth and communication between ExaGrid and Veeam.
That's cool. It's amazing how many folks that have left. It's like you don't leave Veeam. You just go to, you just have a different logo on your shirt and you keep working with Veeam. So many people that have moved to other places, I still work with on a daily basis. It's too funny. And I love it because it just makes like I said, the ecosystem that much bigger and easier to work with.
Well, with over 400,000 customers, you're going to find a lot of Veeam customers all over the place. So that's
overlap. Yeah,
that's a slam dunk. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people know who ExaGrid is, either have implemented, seen it in the past, worked with it in the past, but they may not know the company. Like there's still people out there that don't. Otherwise, everybody would be in 100% of the partners that we talk to.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit about the company, and then we'll talk a little bit about what makes it such a great fit for a Veeam solution.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. ExaGrid has been in business for about 18 years now. We've been shipping product for over 15 years. And what we do is we provide tiered storage, tiered backup storage, and it's specifically for backup. We support over 25 different backup applications, but of course, our favorite of all is absolutely Veeam. Veeam is also the number one storage that we do backup. So a very significant number of our customers are on Veeam. We're a two-tiered system, and without going too deep into the architecture, we've got a very high-speed landing zone where we do extremely fast, robust ingest of data into a landing zone. And then we start a process of adaptive deduplication where we then send that data to a second tier. That second tier is our retention tier. And the beauty of our solution is that there's actually an air gap between the two. So that second tier or the retention tier is non-network facing, which allows us to have all kinds of cool things like immutability and delayed deletes in a feature set that we call RTL or retention time lock. So not only are we an outstanding backup solution, we provide a really cool and very effective recovery mechanism for ransomware events.
And that's huge anymore. I mean, that's really I don't know about you, but just about every conversation I've had over the past, I'm going to say 3 years now, has either been ransomware or security related.
For sure.
It's become a security product, not a data center product, I think, in many ways. So that aspect is something that I think people need to remember, because I think those that don't fully understand what ExaGrid is kind of go, oh, they're a dedupe product. And what you just said is like tenfold what a dedupe product is.
Yeah, you're really preaching to the choir on that one. A lot of people initially knew us as a way to have something else that would compete against the likes of a data domain. But where we really compete, we do a lot of takeout of inline deduplication devices. So yes, data domain, HPE store ones, and things like that. They get very expensive. They don't scale particularly well because at some point you're going to catch up to you put too much disk against your engine or your processing, and all of a sudden it slows down to a crawl. And the other place that we win a lot of business is when we're going head to head against people that are using just what we'd refer to as straight disk. It was always meant as primary storage, never meant as backup, nor was it developed for backup. So the likes of NetApp, Cisco, Pure, you name it. A lot of great companies, very formidable companies, but they were never built for backup. And, in our opinion, they don't really know how to do backup. We are a backup product, and through recent events and development, our ransomware recovery solution has become incredibly important to us and our customers.
So you mentioned something in your description there that I think is something to call out too when we talk about, especially when you're talking about those data dedupe appliances, and that's that first tier, that landing zone, that high performance. The fact that within one system you're a two-tiered system really simplifies the architecture for a backup solution as well. Not something that everybody's doing, and is left a lot of times for the backup architects to figure out on their own.
No, it's a great point. There's a ton of people out there that can back up your data. You and I can drive over to Best Buy and buy some disk to back up our data. The question is, can you recover it, and can you recover it in a time frame that's going to keep a business up and running? Sometimes if you're in a hospital situation, it could be a life or death situation. And if you're in financials, web, whatever it might be, it could be substantial amounts of money for every extra minute that you're down. So our ability to recover from ransomware is incredible. And also having that landing zone not only allows for those fast ingest processes to take place, we avoid the rehydration tax that you're going to get out of your data domains, for example, and we can recover very, very fast from that landing zone.
That's a good point you bring up too, that a lot of people forget to think about, and that's the fact that when you dedupe, at some point when you bring it back, you got to redupe, and
Yep.
you don't necessarily calculate that space in. So that's critical too, that you already are doing that work and calculations as part of your product.
Correct.
That's fantastic.
Correct.
You
Yep.
also do something interesting that very few of the Veeam storage partners do, and it saves again on the architecture, and that's not needing a server in front of an ExaGrid solution. You have the data mover built right in.
We do have the data mover built in. One of the coolest things about our relationship with Veeam is that we're two best of breed products, and we've been developing, right along from the start with one another. But there's so many different integration points that we have with Veeam. It makes us a very powerful solution for Veeam. I mean, we further deduplicate what Veeam is already doing. We take you from a 2-to-1 deduplication if you're just using Veeam software to 14-to-1. We actually provide a 7x factor there. Using the Veeam data mover as a transport mechanism, it provides almost a 30% faster ingest. So that's really amazing when you can have something that's moving that fast. Of course, the protocol through the Veeam data mover, super, super secure as well. So again, that security conversation comes up, and a little bit newer, and this is when you rolled out version 12, the way we do synthetic fulls now, we're almost 30 times faster than how it was happening before using Veeam Fast Clone. So really cool there. We've got sober integration, and coming very, very soon, we'll have support for S3 for your M365 backups. It'll be able to go directly to the ExaGrid without making a stop anywhere ahead of time.
Well, that's pretty exciting, because obviously object is something that it's the hot item, and because everybody wants cheap and deep, and we'll call it relatively fast. But It sounds like you might be able to deliver on all three, possibly. Well, I'm not going to say cheap. I hate to say cheap, because cheap is cheap. Reasonably priced for what the solution is. Cheap's a bad word, because cheap implies inferiority, and there's no inferiority in any of these solutions.
No, very, very true. I think a big part of it, and you and I have talked about this before, is really properly positioning where ExaGrid fits. I mean, our sweet spot is really going to be in that 50 terabyte plus situation. If it's much less than that, there's a lot of other places that the customer may go that's going to be less expensive for them, a little more cost efficient, might make more sense. Last thing we want to do is waste anybody's time, whether it's our friends at Veeam or the VAR partner involved. So if we see a deal that really isn't in our wheelhouse, we're always going to be very upfront and honest and say what the case is. But once you get over 50 terabytes, we now scale to over 6 petabytes worth of data in one full system. So you can network up to 32 exagrids together. And our newest model is an EX189, which provides 189 terabyte landing zone and 189 terabyte retention tier. So really big, dense, fast box. And you can now scale that to over 6 petabytes, where prior it was about 2.7.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's huge.
So it's
That's taking care of the enterprise needs, and basically
yep.
the whole way through to 50 terabytes gives you, that middle commercial segment the whole way up, I'll say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the reason that we really like to start around that number is we provide support like no other organization that I work for. Veeam has outstanding support as well. The support at ExaGrid is a whole nother level that I never have seen in my life. Someone becomes an ExaGrid customer or decides to do a POC with us, they're immediately assigned a tier 2 support, customer support engineer. And that tier 2 is going to be expert in the backup software. Hopefully that is Veeam. So we've got someone who's expert in Veeam. If that customer has any issue and they're on the line with our support, in many cases, from what we've heard from customers who've come our way, it might be, hey, look, that's a Veeam situation. You should give the Veeam guys a call and see if they can help you straighten it out. That doesn't happen with ExaGrid. We put the phone on hold. We call our peer over at Veeam, who we already know because we cross-train one another, and we solve the situation together. So our support is just absolutely extraordinary. So to provide that level of support, there's certainly a cost to that, and we're not going to drop that support because the customer is a little smaller. So we love providing that enterprise class support.
Yeah. Having that multi-vendor support like that. That's almost every time I have to get involved in a support call for somebody, it's because it's multiple vendor.
Yeah.
And you're playing mediator as opposed to actually solving the problem. So that's critical as well, that you have, first off, you have the people that can answer the Veeam questions as they need to. You don't have to get a Veeam engineer on to do the basics, which is.
That's right. Absolutely. Great point. That's a great point. And when you call in with any situation, you're calling just that tier 2 support engineer. You're not going through triage. You're not calling tier 1. You're not jumping through any hoops. The person that picks up the phone not only knows your environment because they helped build it and architect it, they probably know your kids' names, what sports they play. I mean, they become like part of your staff org. It's really cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
I wish it was like that everywhere. It's just, I know it's hard, and 400,000, because we do a pretty darn good job of 400,000 customers. It's kind of tough, but we do have at the higher end, we have TAMs and we have contracts where people could get those relationships.
For sure.
Needed. But so let's talk a little bit about some of the architecture. So if folks are looking, we all talk about the 321 or the 32110 rules of backup. How would you use an ExaGrid to build? I say an ExaGrid. I hate it when people do. How would you use an ExaGrid solution to build a solution that has, the whole thing met, offsite, different copies, all that?
Sure. So if you consider each ExaGrid appliance, every one of those appliances is going to have processing, memory, disk, networking. So everything's built in. That's what allows us to scale out the system. So whether you're doing 100 terabytes or a petabyte, it's not going to matter because it's been scaled to keep up with that. right inside the appliance itself, you're actually creating that tiered air gap by having the retention tier. Most of our customers that are the larger customers have a secondary site. So they're sending it from one ExaGrid to another and potentially doing cross replication. And from there, it's really up to the customer where they'd like to send the data. We could send it out to Azure. Or AWS and utilize an instance in the cloud for a third or tertiary copy. That's an option as well. So we do have that air gapping right inside the primary appliance, and then we can send it to a second and third site to have 3 hops if you'd like it.
Cool. And as far as moving the data, if you're using the primary secondary site with the ExaGrid appliances, Veeam can manage the movement of that data, right? You're not relying on
That's right.
step or even going back into another interface. It's all managed from one spot.
Absolutely. And if you ever end up in the situation where you're trying to recover from a ransomware event, we're going to do that recovery through Veeam as well. So always working closely with Veeam in that case.
Yep. And you've already mentioned about, and I want to reinforce it about the solutions there. When we talk about ransomware, the next thing everybody talks about is immutability. And while for an ExaGrid solution, we're not going in and checking the immutability box in our interface the way that you are if you were doing, say, an object storage solution with S3 compatible or something like that.
Yep.
It is still there. I just want to make sure that is covered and that people understand that just because it's something that's set up in your interface, and then Veeam gets to take advantage of it.
For sure. Yeah, we're certainly stronger in a partnership scenario, and our entire, what I like to call a suite through our retention time lock feature. You're going to have the non-network facing tier that we talked about. You'll have delayed deletes. So if somebody goes in and deletes in a purposeful manner, deletes a volume, for instance, that volume is going to hang around out of the box. It's configured as 10 days, but we're going to keep that data on the system just in case it was malicious or even if it was fat fingered. We're going to have delayed deletes so things don't disappear immediately. We can go back and recover them. Of course, we have immutability, and we also have a feature where we can require secondary approval through a role-based access control system. RBAC, we've got a security officer role now that's fairly new to us, and also using 2FA. We can require that approval if you're going to try and delete something above a threshold that's already been set.
Oh, that's
so
perfect.
We do all kinds of cool security things there. Yep.
Yeah, that marries in great with our the Four Eyes authorization, and we have multi-factor and all that.
Absolutely.
So you're able to continue that through the entire data journey, basically. So that's
absolutely. Yep. Very much so. Very much so. And we're very serious around encryption. We do encryption at the drive level. We do encryption on the WAN. People have to turn on 2FA. The software is only as good as the user allowing us to do it. If they choose not to turn it on for whatever reason, we can't make all the promises we want to.
You can only help people help themselves so much.
That's right. So if you're an ExaGrid customer out there and you don't have it turned on, let's get that done.
Same goes for your Veeam customers. If you're on version 12, you should have multi-factor authentication on.
There you go. We've got it recorded. You've been told.
There you go. Our liability's over, right? Yeah. Sure.
Nice.
Yeah. You betcha. So, here's a question for you. Let's say that somebody's been a long-time ExaGrid customer. What does the process look like to upgrade from an older version to a new version of your appliance? Say they've been on it 5 or so years, and it's getting long in the tooth or time to do something. What's that look like?
Sure. So first and foremost, unlike some of our competitors, we're never going to end of life a product. We allow our customers to mix and match any size and any age product. When you buy an ExaGrid, as long as you're on M&S or management and support, that includes all full releases, all patches, all dot releases. So you're always up to code. But as you said, it's disk, it's spinning, there's moving parts. We make it very easy for our customers to do this on their terms. We certainly have upgrade paths. We'll do things like trade-ins. Many times we'll help a customer figure out when they'll purchase new product. We have product out now that's much more dense than when someone may have purchased 5 years ago. So we make that very easy. Potentially, we're even taking up some less rack space and saving on things like power and cooling in the data center. So we can help them figure that out. The important part is we let you do that on your terms. As long as we have M&S on it, that means we've got product to be able to fix it and parts. We've got strategic parts depots all over the world, so we can always get to somebody in a very, very fast manner for on-the-fly replacement. So we work with our customers and make sure they're comfortable with when this happens for upgrades.
Yeah, so that sounds pretty pain-free.
It is.
And also to grow and expand. I mean, looking at this from the partner side, partners can get scared saying, "What do you mean they support it forever? They buy it and then we'll never get to sell them another one." That's not true. We all know things
No,
change faster.
not at all. In fact, a lot of customers will start out, with 1, 2, maybe 3 ExaGrids, and as they grow, as they have data growth, perhaps they acquire another company, all kinds of different things that can happen. It's so easy to just buy another ExaGrid. We offer price protection, so you're always going to be able to get a good deal like you did when you initially bought ExaGrid. And you're not going to have to worry about upgrading your entire environment if 3 years down the line you acquire a company and need to buy a bunch more ExaGrid. It'll all work seamlessly.
That's gigantic. As you can't sometimes you can't even get an external disk storage cabinet to be compatible for years in some cases. So that's fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about becoming a partner. So what do partners have to do? What do VARs have to do to become an ExaGrid partner?
That's a great question. We make that pretty painless as well. If somebody has customers that have backup projects and they want to talk to ExaGrid, we will certainly sit down, have a conversation. We don't have any real revenue requirements. We're willing to work with anybody, but as long as you're bringing us a good opportunity, we offer registrations to our partners that are going to help them win that business. There's a good sized delta between someone who has a registered deal and the next person in. We're going to work with that primary person. For people that are able to accept it, we are very, very generous with spiffs and things like meeting makers. So once a partner gets a taste of selling ExaGrid, they tend to become very, very strong ExaGrid resellers. So we'll give anybody a shot, and just about all the time, once someone has done business with us, they see it was very painless and they made a lot of money. We keep the margins good size as well.
Yeah, I've heard about the spiffs, and I was like, wow, why can't I get that?
Yeah, in my next life, I want to go sell ExaGrid for a VAR. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I recommend to anybody who's not to add it to your bag to look at ExaGrid as an option. I know there's a lot of storage options out there, but again, there's a reason there's a lot of storage options out there. There's ones that are right for each need.
Absolutely. That's a great point, Eric. And I'd also say a lot of times if we're talking to a partner, we'll hear something like, "Oh yeah, we work with Rubrik, we work with Cohesity, so we're good." Our response is that's terrific. Those are fantastic products, but guess what? Less than 15% of the time that somebody's doing a backup project, they're actually going to replace both the application and disk. So what are you going to do the other 85% of the time? What are you going to do when somebody has Veeam and has no intention of ever getting rid of Veeam? You're walking away from a lot of opportunity if you're stuck with only selling one of those other solutions. And there's a time and a place for them. And sure, we'll see them in deals that we don't win. But our feeling is when we can go to battle against them with Veeam as our partner, we're going to beat them from a technical perspective. We're going to out POC them like it's not even funny. It's almost unfair. And our pricing is going to be extremely attractive as well.
And that's why I love when we get to go to market together, because
Yeah.
it's the rare occurrence that when we're given the opportunity you just said to do POCs and to really get in there to in a place where they haven't made up their mind yet. Sometimes you get invited
Yeah.
and the decision's already made. But if you get a real chance, it's a tough solution to beat.
Totally agree.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a totally off the cuff question here that I didn't prep you for. So having seen tons of different Veeam and ExaGrid solutions, which one, you don't have to name customer names or anything, what's like one of the ones you said, yeah, that one turned out really smooth and what a great process that was?
There was a recent deal that was a Veeam customer that was writing to straight disk, good size, really good size MSP, and they were using Pure as primary storage. And they said, you know what, we're going to use Pure for backup as well. And it was a lot of storage. I mean, it was probably north of $1 million worth of storage. So sizable deal. And one of the architects who had just seen a training with ExaGrid said, let's test Pure against something. We gotta look at it against something if we're making a deal this size. So they brought us in, and we went head to head. And of course, using Veeam as the backup software, we went head to head against Pure FlashBlade, and we smoked them. On 9 out of 10 of the POC tests that we ran, we were faster than them. The only place they were a little faster was bringing back the data was extremely fast because it was sitting there and it was all on primary disk. It was on flash, but I mean, we were so far inside the window of what was required, and we really did good. And that's because of how we work, just as you said, how closely we work Veeam and ExaGrid together. They didn't have those integration points, our ability to use the data mover, like we just absolutely smoked them. And to everyone's surprise, we won that business, and we continue to win a good amount of business when we're going head to head against any type of all flash array.
Yeah.
So I think
And
that was a cool one. That's one that comes to mind pretty quickly.
that's awesome. And that's the kind of wins I love to hear. And it's another reminder that, you know, don't let yourself pigeonhole an ExaGrid solution into being a certain type of solution. That's a significant head to head that you win there.
Yeah,
So
it was big, and the tests were very fair, and a lot of people were rooting for Pure, and the relationship was there. It's a great company. No knocks on them at all, but it's not built for backup, and they don't necessarily know how to do backup, nor is their support built to manage backup. So at the end of the day, the customer made a great choice. They continue to buy with us. I guess that's the other moral of the story. Here we are a year later, and they're still buying very significant expansions on their system. They haven't quite hit their second full petabyte, but I think by the end of this year, they'll have close to 10 petabytes on the floor.
wow,
It's big.
that's a lot of data. That's
Yep.
awesome though. The
And
fact
it's an East
and the
Coast Veeam
scaling up.
customer.
You don't have to buy today with the plans of that in the future because of the way you modularly scale.
Yes, absolutely. And even though in one system we can get to 6 petabytes, we can certainly have multiple systems exist. So that's not a problem either.
That's awesome. That's a great win story, and I'm sure it's
Yes.
going to inspire somebody to try something and get, say maybe this is a chance where we have to get in there and, have a little bake off ourselves on something.
And we do great on running POCs, especially with Veeam. And I'm not knocking anybody, but when I was at Veeam and we would want to run a POC, and the salesperson said, "Yeah, man, we can bring this deal in this quarter. Let's get it." So of course, we're software at Veeam. We're able to provide the software as quickly as the customer needs it. But now their chosen backup platform, we're waiting 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 14 weeks. Is it ever going to ship? Is it ever going to get here? Now our POC is well delayed by over a full quarter. We're pushing deals out of the quarter. People are getting yelled at because they're missing their forecast. At ExaGrid, if you say you want to do a POC with us, we have brand new products sitting and waiting at our manufacturing facility. It's being held just for the purpose so we can get stuff to a customer quickly. If today on a Monday you said you want to do a POC, the paperwork's really fast, no red tape. You'll have product on site by Wednesday or Thursday, and you'll be taking backups on it by the end of this week. It's that easy.
That's
And
awesome.
if you decide you're going to move forward with us, you keep that box in your environment. That's yours. It was brand new, full support on it, and away you go.
Wow, that's fantastic. And what a way to, I mean, that is a sales cycle shrinker right there. That
For sure.
everybody's looking for, something that you could discover and sell a deal in quarter. I know that in quarter open and close is a huge thing here at Veeam.
Absolutely.
So that is something that can certainly help with it.
And we love doing POCs. It's not we don't look at it as something that's, extra work or a pain in the neck to us. We absolutely love it. It's a big part of what our SEs do, and we love to have them going on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this was very insightful for me too. I mean, I've known you guys, I've known you forever. It's nice to catch up again. It's been a little while. I got to make sure I catch up with you again next time I'm up north.
Absolutely.
I hope that it gave some folks out there the idea that ExaGrid is more than just the old dedupe appliance. And that's really what I wanted to do, is to make sure those that know. Those that don't are assuming, and I want to make sure that they understand and get the partners more opportunities for wins with a really tried and true and proven solution.
Absolutely. Well, we really appreciate the opportunity. We love our relationship with Veeam. We know there's a whole bunch of different storage platforms that you can point people to, but we love when we do deals with Veeam because we know how well it's going to work and how happy our customers will be. So thanks for the opportunity to talk through it a little bit more, and look forward to seeing you in person.
I do too. Thank you very much for your time.
This has been Veeam Partner Perspectives with Eric Doherty. Thank you for listening.